People who have had a stalker, how did you realize you were being stalked and what ended up happening?
Apologies for the length. Short summary at bottom. Mine was much different than most people's. I met mine at church, but found out later he had followed me there. Apparently, he lived a couple houses down from my ex-boyfriend, and this dude showed up at my church within a week of my breakup with my ex. He was always wearing an army jacket, so I thought he was a veteran struggling with severe PTSD by the way he would act. Found out later that he actually had a developmental disorder, and the army jacket had been his father's. He followed me around my church for a while, and I honestly didn't think much of it. He seemed harmless. My friends would always joke about it when they'd see him looking for me if he lost where I was. If I went to the bathroom, he'd be standing outside the door when I came out. This went on for a couple years. We were always really nice to him, dumb on our part, but we didn't know any better. And we would invite him to our cookouts and hangouts, 'cause he could drive and stuff. One night, I was at my friend's house having a girls' night. Her husband and our other friend went out so we could be alone. This dude showed up at the front door of my friend's house at midnight, holding a weed whacker. Seriously, can't make this up. When I asked him what he was doing there, he said, "Can I weed eat the backyard?" I was super confused because again, it was the middle of the night, and my friend lived on a big lot, so it was pitch black outside. We told him no and asked him to leave, so he did. A couple weeks later, my friend and I were sitting with him in our church auditorium. It was just the three of us in there while we were waiting for my friend's husband to get out of a meeting. My friend said she needed to use the bathroom, and so she left me alone with him. I didn't really think anything of it. He'd never tried anything before, other than be a little too much in my space, so I thought it would be fine for a couple minutes. First thing he does is tell me that I look tense. I was like, "Oh, I'm fine," trying to hide that fact that I was uncomfortable with him saying that. He proceeded to get up, stand behind me and place his hands on my shoulders to massage them. I was still trying to be nice at this point by saying, "No, I'm okay, thanks, please stop." That was when he started really apply pressure and I started to panic. So I struggled to get out of his grip, but the more I struggled, the harder he grabbed onto my shoulders, and it hurt so bad. My friend came back at just the right time and yelled at him before ripping him off of me. She started screaming at him and he left angry. We didn't see him or hear of him again after that. Not until my friend called me a couple years later, telling me the guy had been arrested. I asked for the story, and my friend sent me a link to an article. It said that the dude had been arrested for stabbing his neighbor's dogs to death. I think only one actually died, but the second one almost died. He was suspected of multiple other dog deaths in his neighborhood. He had gotten arrested, bonded out, got put on an ankle monitor, didn't charge it, went off the grid for 6 hours. And when they found him, they said that they found mutilated cats, raccoons, and possums in the surrounding block around his house. The article also said he had allegedly set fire to a previous girl's house when she rejected him. And another girl, he threatened to kill her whole family. I feel like my situation with him wasn't near as bad as those other girls, but I'm still so glad that he's in prison now. They won't let him out early because they said he's a danger to society. TLDR. Followed by someone for years, nearly assaulted. Dude gets arrested for being an animal mutilator.
Not sure if this counts, but I'll share anyway. I was repeatedly harassed by my ex after cutting him off because he cheated on and manipulated me during our 3-year relationship, and he didn't like that I wasn't in his control anymore. After we hashed it out for the last time over text, I blocked him on everything except iMessages but stopped responding to his texts. Sent me a birthday text, tried to talk to me after the girlfriend he was with while still seeing me broke up with me, commented on my YouTube channel, then texted me from a new number. This went on for a bit. 2 months later, I get a text from my dad. The dude showed up at my front door at 11 at night while I was at work, wanting to talk to me. I freaked out, panicked a bit in the car, then drove home. As I'm walking up the drive, way to get inside, Dad's waiting at the door for me. X's car stops in the middle of the road as he spots me. Run inside, he parks and goes up to the door again. Dad answers for me, tells him to leave. It took me 20 to 25 minutes to get home. He waited for me, circling around my house. Yikes. Also, a month after that, he made a pickup order for the store I work at. I packed his order. Scared the shit out of me because during the holidays I help with making orders, stockroom operations, so if I were working on the day he picked it up, I'd probably be the one to have to give it to him. A few weeks ago, he sent me a letter about how good of a person I am, how much he's changed as a person, how he misses me, but most importantly, how he never cheated on me, and everybody who says otherwise, yes, there are witnesses, is a liar. My current boyfriend texts him saying to leave me alone. X blows up at him and says that my current BF is manipulating me because I was in a bad mindset, and all these people are telling me all these terrible lies of cheating and gaslighting. Ironic part is, X shit talks me to our friends about how much I ruined his life and I'm a terrible manipulative bitch. Wouldn't be surprised if he has an alt account trying to still keep tabs on me. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Dude has serious anger issues and lying problems, but I don't think I can get a restraining order or anything BC. He hasn't made threats on my life that I know of. And plus, I'd rather not see his face again. My dad says if there's any more contact he's going to call his mother, but I wish he told her the night X came to my house. I'm still terrified to come home at night, or even walk in my downstairs at night. I don't feel safe in my own home, but nothing I can really do. If I do anything, it'll set him off. I know if we see each other in public, he'll run right up to me, and in that case, I have a plan, but I think, or at least hope, he's done putting any effort in. Not very intense stalking as it could be, and there's a lot more context than just I have a stalker, just taking the opportunity to share and vent.
I lived about 3 blocks from the bus stop when I was in elementary school, and my mom would sometimes forget to pick me up, so I'd just walk home. It was only 2 turns, so I knew the way, and was used to the route from being on a bike with friends, so it wasn't a big deal to me. My house was considered part of the hood, so shady stuff went on, but there were lots of good folks on our street who would do yard work, so I was relatively safe to travel because of all the eyes. About halfway home, I noticed a white van, fucking cliche, parked on the street. Okay, no big deal, whatever, it's a car. Then when I reached my street, I noticed the van out of the corner of my eye was parked a few houses back from me. It was definitely the same van because I recognized the plate. That was a little weird and too weird for me to be comfortable, so I kept walking until I reached the house of someone who would let me take strawberries from their garden. Luckily, it was only 2 houses down from where I was standing, so I wasn't in any danger of getting grabbed. I made up a story of wanting to know more about their garden, which was huge and filled their entire backyard with pathways and cobblestone and benches and shit, and they let me into their backyard. I ate some strawberries and peeked over the backyard fence to see the white van slowly go by where I was. Luckily, they couldn't see me, but I saw the driver and they had a hat and sunglasses on and camera around their neck. I was a kid, so I didn't really react or comprehend the situation fully, just went home through the back. All of the backyards were separated, but if you climbed over the back fence, there was a space in between a really long fence that went down the entire street. I'd use that space a lot to travel around between my friends' houses and to just explore. It made for a great getaway. I did find out on the news that kids were being kidnapped, and the kidnapper had taken nude photos of all of them. They had found their hub, where they took the photos and had put them all over the walls. I don't know if they found the guy or not. It was about a dozen children, all under 10. From then on, my older siblings would walk me to and from the bus stop when my mom didn't.
It started while I was still in high school. He would be in a few of my classes, and we would occasionally see each other around town, a very small rural town. It slowly turned into him showing up at some of my friend group's hangout spots and saying that I had inspired him to start looking into similar hobbies. We thought it was kind of weird, but just brushed it off and avoided him. Flash forward a couple weeks into the start of summer vacation. He had found or followed me to all of my favourite places and my work, even though both were sometimes towns over from our own. I would see his car at parks where I did outdoor painting, at my place of work as well as at friends' houses, and he would drive past the house of the family I nannied for during my days on. I thought it was creepy and told local authorities, but they told me not to worry. This went on for the rest of high school and up until graduation. I didn't tell anyone what university I was going to and lied, claiming it was 1 hour away from mine. He was accepted and attended there while I left for another. He found out after a semester that I wasn't there and showed up at my dorm hall. He tried to break in and convince me and other people in the building to just let him in. I hid out in another girl's room until my friend was able to pick me up and take me to her boyfriend's off-campus apartment. I found out he was arrested the next morning for assaulting an RA. I called and showed them the evidence I had for his persistent stalking and finally filed a restraining order. He just got released a few months ago and I have never been more nervous. I'm just happy my current job and living area has amazing security, and they all have pictures and his information to be safe. I may be paranoid, but better safe than end up on a true crime podcast.
It was my ex. When we broke up, it was all very dramatic, and he got on a bus across the country the same day for whatever reason and sent a long message from the bus ending with, "This is not goodbye." I said, "Yes, it is. Good luck." 2 years later, I met my now husband, and I suppose he moved back after 3 years. I started seeing him everywhere. He followed the two of us around Walmart for 45 minuets until I just posted up near a security guard and slipped out as he tried to wait for me to get away from the security guard. Then I saw him wandering around near my mother's house, but I had at that point moved in with my husband. Then I saw him outside of my work. He was clearly trying to get the courage to come in, and he was also very clearly high. Some of the regular police officers came in by chance for their coffee, and he left when they arrived. Then he figured out the general location where I was living, and I saw him sort of wandering around a few times. I didn't go home when I saw him. I went and sat in a public place for a few hours. Then I changed places of work, and I saw him outside about 3 times. I was near a major transportation hub, so I tried to ignore it. But when he started doing the pacing, tweaking, chain smoking thing again, I figured I ought to do something. So I waited for a family friend I knew would be in who was pretty domineering, and I knew would go to bat for me, and let him know who it was and what he was doing. He went outside and told my ex off, I suppose, and scared him, I guess, because he left quite quickly. My family friend was a bus driver, so I gave him a picture and he shared it with some drivers along my regular route. And as long as I stuck to that route, the few more times I saw him trying to get on my bus, we drove right past him, or the wrong door opened to let people off and not let him on. We finally moved again, and I quit my job because I had been bouncing around the same chain and was easy to find. Since then, I have seen him once, but he didn't see me, and I think it was unrelated, because he actually bought something. I just sat in the camera room and watched till he left. It's been an additional 5 years now, so I assume he has figured himself out. I got an air of doom every time I saw him. He was kind when we dated, never abusive, but he was anti-drugs and anti-smoking, and so seeing him high and things like that set off alarm bells. I know he was not well when he returned. I don't know what would have happened had he gotten close to me. Maybe nothing. But every bone in my body was screaming danger. So I trusted my gut and took steps to maintain distance, and I was okay. The police wouldn't have done anything. No threats were uttered, and we were always in public. But all in all, it turned out okay.
I had a stalker in high school, and he didn't make it a secret. We were friends at first, kind of talking romantically, but I was very shy when it came to relationships or being physical. We had never even kissed before when he asked if he could send a song he wrote about me. It made me very uncomfortable, and I asked him not to send it, but he did anyway. I expressed my discomfort and tried to continue the friendship, but it was just not working because he would still write me poems and send me weird songs. He started following me to my classes, even though his were on the other side of school, but he wouldn't speak to me at all. It was insanely uncomfortable. This continued for weeks. He started sending me mean messages anonymously online and sending me songs with scary titles. He sent me that Smiths song, "The More You Ignore Me," the closer I get every single day, sometimes multiple times. Then one day at lunch, he gave me a handwritten poem, and I can't remember what all it said, but the end was something about how he wanted to watch me get eaten alive by sharks. While friends, I had told him sharks were my biggest fear. I showed my teacher the poem and she freaked out and took it to the guidance counselor. She knew all the previous incidents, so the letter made her worried, especially how his handwriting changed when he was writing about me dying. I ended up getting called into a meeting with the principal, a guidance counselor, and the teacher I told. They even called my mom in, and we all sat down and talked about what would be the best thing to do. The principal was really nervous he would do something crazy, so he said I should just avoid him as much as possible and be polite anytime we may interact. Basically, how I was already handling it. I'm not sure if they ever spoke to him about it, but the last interaction I had with him still creeps me out to think about. I was up very late and received a text from him. "Why are you up so late? You should get ready for bed." He had been to my place once before, and I lived very close to the school. I'll always wonder if he was outside my house that night.
Last year, my girlfriend was getting emails, texts, and DMs from a no-name account asking intrusive and weird questions. Are you in an open relationship? Random sexually explicit stuff. She just blocked and moved on. Shocker to me, this is apparently very normal for women and it fucking sucks. Anyway, one time we were in a mall and she noticed this lanky guy was following us. Again, I'm oblivious. She mentions to me that she thinks it's the guy who has been harassing her for weeks. We leave. She gets an email to her business email. That night, telling her that her boyfriend is cheating on her and flirting with other girls on Goodreads, and how does that make her feel? If she wants to know more, she can meet him at a park that we spend a lot of our time together at. She now knows that he lives in our area and has all the information about her. She stops going for runs at night, she stops shopping by herself, etc. Locks down every account, doesn't leave the house alone. She's just angry. I'm angry too. I ended up looking this guy up and realized that we had a mutual friend. Just an actor that I had filmed a commercial with. I send her a message asking if she knows this guy and explain the situation. I see that she's read it but doesn't respond. So for a few months, my girlfriend doesn't hear anything from him and we just decide that it's over with. Then I get a message from the actor. Apparently she did know the stalker. It was her ex-boyfriend. They had an abusive relationship and he was really jealous. I guess he focused in on me because we would recommend each other books on Goodreads. He then decided that he was going to get even with me by stalking my girlfriend. The actor is embarrassed and is saying shit like, "I understand if you never want to talk to me again," which just breaks my heart. We offer to help her out, but she said that she has a restraining order and that it's fine. She did contact him, and he said he'll stop and never contact us again. We thought we were fine, that it was over with. Then, one day he sends me a long IGDM trying to explain his behavior and saying that he wants to talk. I ignore it. He keeps sending messages. I keep ignoring it. I think he's done now, but I'll never forgive this guy for making my partner feel incredibly unsafe for a year. TLDR, some guy stalked and harassed my GF because I liked his ex's Goodreads challenge.
I went on 3 dates with a guy, but didn't quite feel like there was a connection. Tried to let him down gently, as he hadn't had a girlfriend before. I was happy to remain friends as he was a friendly guy. I just wasn't attracted to him. This was about May. I've learned a few lessons from this one. He added me on Facebook, which was okay as we'd communicate through there sometimes. A month or so goes by, and he turns up at my house unannounced, saying he was in the area. He actually lived 45 minutes away and decided to go shopping in my town. I wasn't home at the time. My brother messaged me to let me know, and then the guy messaged me too. I apologized and said I was out, won't be home for several hours. That's fine. He went home. He'd picked me up from my house for the third date. A few weeks later, I had accepted an event invitation on Facebook to a car show my mechanic was hosting. The guy turned up at this car event whilst I was there with my brother and some friends, and I didn't really know what to do about it. My brother kept him entertained, and I managed to exchange pleasantries but stayed with my friends. I went for lunch with my friends, and when I got home, I found out that the guy had gone to my house again. This time, he had left some chocolates, a towel with my name embroidered on it, and a letter. In the letter, he explained how he was in love with me, wanted to have children with me, get married, and get a house together. Oh, and the towel was so I could think about him when I dry myself with it. Again, I turned him down because I wasn't into him. A few months later, I'm seeing someone else and he's over at my house. This guy turns up again, unannounced, trying to get hold of me. Why didn't he just message or call me? But luckily, my brother is aware I've got the new guy with me, so tells the guy I'm not home. I had to explain to him in a message that if he wants to see me, he actually needs to contact me first, not just turn up unannounced and expect me to be available. It made it much more difficult to want to be friends with him as it was becoming a bit overbearing and I didn't know what he'd try next. So I had to cut him off. He tried contacting me through several methods. He even changed his number pretending to be someone else. He finally stopped after a year and a half.